The rough bark of the acacia tree bit into his back, a constant grinding pain that was nothing compared to the searing fire in his wrists. The ropes, thick and merciless, had rubbed his skin raw. For hours Ben had struggled, his muscles screaming in protest, his throat parched and raw from calls for help that was swallowed by the immense, indifferent savanna. But now silence had fallen. The sun had bled out across the horizon, painting the sky in heartbreaking shades of orange and purple. And with the darkness came a new kind of fear. Not the fear of dying from thirst, but the fear of being found. Every rustle in the tall grass, every distant snap of a twig sent a jolt of pure, primal terror through him. He knew what hunted in these shadows, and he knew he was the perfect bait. Then he heard it. It wasn't a snap. It was a low, guttural vibration that seemed to rise from the very earth itself. It thrummed through the soles of his boots, up his legs, and into his chest, where his heart hammered like a war drum. He strained his eyes, peering into the gloom, praying it was just the wind. But he was wrong. So terribly wrong. Out of the encroaching darkness, a shape materialized. It was immense, a fluid silhouette of muscle and menace, two pinpricks of gold ignited in the night, fixing on him with an unwavering, predatory focus. A low growl rumbled again, closer this time, a sound that promised a swift and brutal end. It was a lion. A massive, battle-scarred male, its dark mane a crown of terrifying majesty. This was it, the end of his story, written in tooth and claw. What happened next, however, no one could have predicted. The massive lion padded forward, its movements unnervingly silent for such a powerful creature. It stopped just feet from Ben, its immense head level with his chest. The smell of dust and wild animal filled his nostrils, and he could feel the heat radiating from its body. Ben squeezed his eyes shut, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. He braced for the crushing force of its jaws, for the agony that would signal his last moments on Earth. But it never came. Instead, he felt a strange, wet pressure against his cheek. He dared to open his eyes. The lion was nudging him, its huge, rough tongue swiping at his face. Its golden eyes weren't filled with the cold fire of a killer. They held something else entirely. A profound, unsettling intelligence, a flicker of recognition. It was impossible. A wild animal couldn't remember, could it? The lion let out a soft, chuffing sound, a noise of inquiry, not aggression. It then lowered its head, its powerful snout sniffing at the ropes binding his wrists. It looked from the ropes, back to Ben's face, and then back to the ropes. It was a look of assessment, of understanding. Ben's mind, reeling from fear and confusion, desperately scrambled for an answer. And then he saw it. A faint, silvery scar that cut through the dark fur on the lion's muzzle, just above its nose. The memory hit him with the force of a physical blow. Years ago, as a young wildlife ranger on his first patrol, he'd found a tiny, wounded cub caught in a poacher's snare, its life fading. He had carefully cut it free, cleaned its wound, a deep gash on its muzzle, and watched as its mother returned to carry it away to safety. Could it really be? After all these years, the same cub now grown into this magnificent, terrifying king of the savanna, it seemed like a fever dream. But the lion's gentle nudging, its pleading gaze, told a story that defied all logic. Keep watching to witness a miracle that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the animal kingdom. Suddenly, the lion, this impossible creature from his past, opened its mouth, not to roar, not to bite, but to carefully, deliberately take the thick rope binding Ben's right hand between its massive teeth. Ben froze, every muscle tensed. A single wrong move, a single twitch of those powerful jaw muscles, and his hand would be crushed. But the lion was astonishingly gentle. It began to gnaw, its teeth working like shears, shredding the tough fibers one by one. Hope, fierce and blinding, erupted in Ben's chest. He was going to live. He was going to be saved by the very animal he had once saved. But he didn't realize the real danger had just arrived. A new sound cut through the night, a sound of manic, chattering laughter that made Ben's blood run cold. Hyenas. a whole pack of them, drawn by the scent of a trapped and helpless meal. They emerged from the shadows, their hunched forms and unnerving grins the stuff of nightmares. They saw the lion, but their numbers gave them a reckless courage. They began to circle, their cackles growing louder, their eyes glowing in the dark. The lion, whose name Ben now knew in his heart was Zuberi, unleashed a deafening roar that shook the very air. It was a declaration of ownership, a warning. This human was his to protect. As the hyenas lunged, Zuberi became a whirlwind of fury. He met them with slashing claws and snapping jaws, a golden blur of unwavering loyalty. Ben could only watch in horrified awe as the beast fought to defend him, even as it continued to chew at his bonds between savage attacks. The battle was brutal, but the real test of this bond was yet to come. With a final, powerful crunch, the last strand of rope on Ben's wrist snapped. He was free. He scrambled to his feet, his legs weak and trembling, just as Zuberi sent the last of the hyenas scattering into the darkness. The lion was bleeding from a dozen small wounds, its breathing heavy and ragged, but it was victorious. An exhausted silence fell, broken only by their panting. Ben reached out a trembling hand and, for the first time, laid it on the lion's thick mane. Zuberi leaned into the touch, a deep, rumbling purr vibrating through Ben's palm. In that moment, a bond forged in a single act of kindness years ago was sealed in blood and battle. But their ordeal was not over. The distant, jarring sound of a sputtering engine grew louder. Headlights cut through the darkness, pinning them in their harsh glare. It was the poachers. The men who had tied him to the tree and left him for dead were back, likely to finish the job. They climbed out of their truck, rifles in hand, their faces twisting in disbelief at the scene before them. A man standing beside a massive, blood-spattered lion as if they were old friends. They raised their rifles. Ben's heart sank. After everything, it was going to end here. But Zuberi stepped in front of him. He didn't just stand there. He planted his massive paws and lowered his head, his body a solid wall of protective muscle. He then unleashed a roar so profound, so filled with righteous fury, that it vibrated through the poacher's very bones. It was not the roar of a wild animal. It was the roar of a guardian, a king defending his territory and a friend defending his own. The poachers were stunned into silence. They had dealt with lions their whole lives, but they had never seen anything like this. This wasn't just an animal, this was an unwavering, intelligent force of nature with a clear and terrifying mission. Faced with this impossible display of loyalty, their greed turned to fear. They scrambled back into their truck and sped away, disappearing into the night they came from. Ben stood alone in the moonlight with his savior. He sank to his knees, overwhelmed with a wave of gratitude so powerful it brought tears to his eyes. He wrapped his arms around the lion's thick neck, burying his face in its mane. And the great lion, the king of the savanna, stood perfectly still, accepting the embrace. This is a story that proves kindness is a language that transcends species. It is a debt that the universe never forgets to repay, a light that ignites in the darkest of moments, reminding us that a single act of compassion can echo through the years, returning to you with the force of a lion's roar when you need it most. If you believe this incredible act of loyalty deserves to be seen, leave a comment below telling us what moved you the most. Ben and Zuberi's story teaches us that the deepest connections are not bound by words, but by actions. Share this with someone who needs a dose of hope today, and their story is far from over. The poachers may have fled, but they left a trail. Next week, join us as we follow Ben's mission to bring them to justice with the help of his unlikely, powerful ally. A moment that will redefine what you think is possible between man and beast. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter in this wild saga of empathy and survival.